So you just got a guitar and you're wondering, what the heck do I do with this thing? I don't even know the first place to start. This sounds like you, then make sure you stick around because this is the exact video that you need to watch to get started on the guitar. Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Adam and welcome to Jamsville. In today's video, I'm going to show you what I think is the ideal first guitar lesson to get you started having fun playing the guitar quickly and to help you develop some good habits that are going to serve you extremely well all along your guitar journey. So without further ado, let's get started. First thing we're going to cover is holding the guitar. So most people hold the guitar the way that I am right now. So you want to pay attention to a few things. Number one, this curved part of the guitar here is resting on my right leg. And if I'm a right-handed player, which I am, I'm going to hold the guitar on my right leg. If you're a left-handed player, then all this stuff is going to be flipped over, including the guitar. The guitar is going to be resting on your left leg because you pick with your left hand. Now, a couple other things to pay attention to. A lot of people, when they start playing the guitar, they let their guitar slide down like this. And it looks really weird. But if you don't realize that it is weird, you're going to do it a lot and you're going to get used to this, and it's really bad because it makes it really hard for your left hand to play stuff. You have to bend your wrist. So make sure your guitar is always facing upright and it's on your leg nice and steady. I can actually even just let go of it like this and it's not going to tilt either way. Speaking of tilting, make sure that you're not allowing the guitar to slump this way. I notice a lot of beginners, they start and they have their guitar slumping like this and their arm ends up touching their leg like this, and again, it just restricts your ability to play, it restricts your movement. So with the right arm, you want to make sure that your right arm is resting somewhere along the top of the guitar right here in the round corner of the body. And make sure that your hand is pretty close to the instrument around here. Make sure it's not floating in the air like this all the time. We'll get more into that picking hand technique, but these are the basics of holding the guitar. It should look pretty much like this. Also, let's talk about holding the guitar pick. So the way that I like to hold the pick, and I think this is a good place to start off, is take your hand and curl up your fingers like this. Just curl them up so they're kind of like a U shape, like a hook. And take your pick and then lay it on the side of your pointer finger like this so that the point of the pick is sticking out perpendicular to your fingernail, sort of like this. And then you simply just take your thumb and sandwich it around that pick. So it should look just like this when you're holding that pick. It should feel pretty comfortable. You shouldn't have to hold it tightly. You should be relaxed at all times, by the way, when you're playing guitar. We're going to talk about that a lot more. Staying relaxed is super duper important. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the parts of the guitar. So the first most obvious part that you need to know are the strings. There's 6 of them, and they get thinner and thinner as we go up the guitar. So actually, if we number the strings, it's going to be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the 6th string is the thickest string, and the 1st string is the thinnest string. And we're going to talk more about those in a second. Now, the next thing you need to know are the frets of the guitar. So the frets are these metal wires that run like this, and they're actually embedded into the fingerboard of the guitar, which is the surface wood of the neck here that also has these dots on it. These dots are called fret markers. These dots allow you to relatively quickly know what fret you're on at any given time. So most guitars have about 20 to 22 frets. This guitar has 22 frets, so if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it'll go all the way up to 22. And you need to know about the frets because whenever we play notes and chords, you're going to play them by pressing down the string on a certain fret. And one thing you need to know as well is that you don't want to press down directly on the metal part. You want to actually press down right next to it. Next thing we need to talk about are the tuning knobs. And the tuning knobs are right here. And you turn these knobs, and these knobs in turn make these tuning pegs here, which hold the strings. And that's what allows us to tune the guitar. If you're playing an electric guitar, you also have these are called the pickups. So these do exactly what they say. They pick up the sound and they send it through the guitar cable into an amplifier, and that's where the sound goes through the whole signal chain. And one more part that you should know is the nut. So that's this white part here on this guitar, and this is essentially where the strings are supported on the headstock of the guitar. This whole part is called the headstock. And the nut is actually a lot more important than it seems, because if the nut gets dirty, things like that, it can actually mess up how your guitar is tuned. Next thing we need to talk about is the musical alphabet. So we use the guitar to play notes, and each of those notes has names. And the way that we name notes is by giving them the name of a letter. So the musical alphabet is all the letters that we have available to us to name notes. And the letters that we can use are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that's it. Those 7 letters repeat over and over and over, and that's what gives us the musical alphabet. There's no note that's named H or J or K or anything like that. They're all some kind of A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. There's also something called sharps and flats, but we're not going to be talking about that yet in this video. Just know that we name notes after letters. So each of these notes that I play here, which you're going to be learning in a second, has a letter name associated with it. Okay, so the next thing that we need to talk about is the names of the open strings. So just like I said, all the notes that we play in the guitar are named after letters. All of the strings have their own letter name that you need to memorize in order to know how to tune the guitar and eventually to know just chords and know the notes on the guitar, which is going to be extremely, extremely important. So the names of the open strings are really easy to remember. And I'm going to tell you what they are first, and then I'm going to give you a cool little trick to memorize them. So the letters are E, A, D, G, B, E. And that's starting from the 6th string. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 6 is E, 5 is A, 4 is D, 3 is G, 2 is B, and the first string is E. There's actually 2 of them that are letter E. So that's pretty easy. So you only have to really memorize 5 of them. Now, the really funny way to memorize this is this mnemonic device that says, Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie. So Eddie, E, ate, A, dynamite is D, and then good is G, bye is B, and then Eddie again for E. So Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. And then just remember eventually E, A, D, G, B, E. You should be able to rattle that off like super quickly. Just practice that whenever you can. Just think about it. E, A, D, G, B, E. And you're going to get practice when you tune the guitar, memorizing those note names. The next thing you need to know is how to tune the guitar. And for the sake of time, I am actually going to attach a separate video to this video that'll show you how to tune the guitar, because it can be a little annoying at first if you're not familiar with it. So check the description below for the link to that video, and make sure you watch that video and you understand how to tune the guitar before proceeding with this video. Okay, unbelievably exciting. Now you're going to play your first notes on the guitar. So we're going to learn 3 notes right off the bat, and this is going to be really good because you're going to learn how to play some notes and you're going to learn what the names of those notes are. So the first note we're going to play is the open A string. So you're going to take your pick, and remember how I told you how to hold the pick. You're going to take it and you're going to put it right next to the A string right here, and then you're just going to move your pick downwards like this. This is called a downstroke because your pick is moving downwards. Now, one thing you can also do is do upstrokes. So the pick starts on the other side of the string and moves up. So let's play together really quick. Let's just count 1, 2, 3, 4 while you play. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next note that you're gonna learn is a B note. And what we're gonna do is take our pointer finger and put it on the 2nd fret of that 5th string. So we have the 5th string here, and we're gonna count 1, here's the 1st fret, this space here, and then we're gonna go to the 2nd fret, it's right here. And remember, we want to not put our finger directly on the 2nd fret, we wanna put our finger just next to the 2nd fret. So we have all this space in the 2nd fret, this is all considered the 2nd fret, but we wanna have our finger as close as possible to the body of the guitar when we fret a note. So take your finger and press down until the string comes into contact with the metal fret bar. And then pick the note just like we picked the open A string. And it should sound like this. So that's your B note. Now, you should make sure you're not pressing down too hard. A lot of beginners start pressing down really, really hard. It's not as much about pressing down hard as it is of positioning your finger properly so that it's hugging the fret right next to the fret. And then only press down as hard as you need to get the string to come into contact with the fret and to be able to get the note to sound out clearly. A really good way to test this is actually to not press down at all and pick the note, and you'll see that it's going to sound muted. It will not sound out like this. And then gradually press down harder and harder until the note sounds out like this. So that's exactly how hard I need to press down in order to get that note to sound out. I pressed down harder and harder very gradually until I got the note to sound out. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your middle finger and you're gonna place it on the fret that's 1 higher, so on the 3rd fret. And if you notice, the 3rd fret has this nice fret marker here. So you can notice that this is the 1st fret marker. So the 1st fret marker on your guitar will indicate the 3rd fret. So it's a really easy way of whenever you have to play something that's on the 3rd fret, you just look, okay, there's the 1st fret marker, the dot, now I know that's the 3rd fret. So we had this B note here, and now without moving that finger, you don't need to continue pressing down, but keep it there. Take your middle finger and press down on the 3rd fret, and see if you can get the C note to come out. It should sound like this. And now let's try to just alternate between those 3 notes like this. So remember, this is A, this is B, and this is C. A, B, C, B, A. So remember those 3 notes, and I really think it's important for you to also just try to mess around right from the beginning and be creative with those notes. See how you can combine them and see if you can play like some different rhythms with them. Also, that thing I just did that sounded like this. When when those two fast notes happened, I was using something called alternate picking. So I showed you downstrokes and upstrokes, but you can use both of them almost at the same time. They're not exactly at the same time, but they're alternating. So when I did this, it was down, up, down, up, down, up. So that's something you need to get comfortable with as well. This idea of being able to pick the string and go down and then go back up again. So just get comfortable with that basic thing of playing through those notes, playing with some downstrokes, playing with some upstrokes, and playing with some alternate down and upstrokes. All right, now that you learned how to play some notes, the other really important thing, and some people would say is even more important, is learning how to play chords. So, chords are when we play more than one note all at the same time. For example, this is a chord that I'm going to show you right now. This is called the D chord. So this chord actually has 4 notes at the same time that are sounding out, and that's the really cool thing about the guitar, that we have these 6 strings and we can play them all at the same time if we want to and have these big sounding chords. They obviously sound a lot bigger and fuller than just playing one note at a time. Those are one note at a time, and then this is a chord. So, let me show you how to play that D chord. And all the chords I'm going to show you today, you can actually use to play probably half the songs at least that are on the radio. But anyway, so check this out. So for the D chord, we're going to make this kind of strange at first shape. It's like a triangle. But we'll go through it step by step. So you're going to take your middle finger and you're going to put it on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, like this. Okay? Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to, while holding that finger down, you can't let that finger move, you're going to take your 3rd finger, this one right here, your ring finger, and you're going to put it on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So we have the 2nd string here, and you're going to put it on the 3rd fret. So we have these 2 notes down. That was the 1st string, and then the 2nd string I played it. Now while holding those 2 notes down, we need one more. So you're going to take your 1st finger and put it down on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So here's the 3rd string. I'm going to put it on the 2nd fret. And now you're going to make sure to strum not only the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string, but also the 4th string. So you need to strum these 4 notes. So that's 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's your D chord. So one thing that you need to start doing right away is try to actually see if you can hold this shape while not putting your fingers on the guitar. What do I mean by that? So see if you can lift your fingers off the fretboard and hold the shape like that, and then put them back. This is going to be really, really important for learning how to switch chords quickly, which you're going to need to be able to do in order to play songs and play with good rhythm. So with this chord and with every other chord I show you and every chord you learn from now on, make sure that you can make the shape with your fingers and not have to rely on pressing down each finger one at a time on the chords. That's going to take a little bit of practice, but if you start thinking about it now, it'll happen a lot faster. Okay, so really quick, I just wanted to go over how to read the chord diagrams that you should be seeing on screen every time I show you a chord. So this is really important to know because you'll see this all the time. You'll see different chord diagrams in all kinds of guitar lessons all over the internet and in books. So you got to know this. So you're going to see vertical lines, 6 of them, And these vertical lines represent the strings on the guitar. And you see them the way that you're looking at the guitar from this perspective, like it's on a guitar stand. So you have the 6th string all the way on the left, then the 5th string, then the 4th string, then the 3rd string, then the 2nd string, and then the 1st string. And there's dots placed on each of the frets where you need to put your finger. So for example, for the D chord, again, we should have a dot here on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So that means you have to put your finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And then there'll be another dot that's here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and another dot that's on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. So that would represent your D chord. Also, one thing that's really important to note is that some of the strings will have O's on top that are not on a fret, which means you play that string open. And then it can also have an X, which means you do not play that string. So for the D chord, you do not play the 6th and the 5th string, and then you do play the 4th string, but it's open, it has an O. So again, this is the D chord. And that's how you read those diagrams. So keep that in mind for the rest of this lesson when you see those diagrams pop up on the screen. Okay, and the next chord that you're going to learn is the G chord. So we had the D chord before, now we have the G chord. So let's go over this really slowly. So you're going to take your 2nd finger, your middle finger. Again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not counting our thumb because we don't use our thumb, at least not yet, to play any notes. So you take your 2nd finger, put it on the 3rd fret. So remember that 1st fret marker there? That means it's the 3rd fret. Put it in the 3rd fret of the 6th string. So this thickest string here. You get this note. Now the next thing you're going to do is put down your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. So you have these two notes. And now while holding those two, you're going to actually get some of the higher strings now. So you're going to take your 3rd finger, put it on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So we're skipping over the 4th and the 3rd string, going straight to the 2nd string now with our fingers. So you're going to have that finger down. And then you're going to take your pinky. This is going to be a little bit tricky. And you're going to put it also on the 3rd fret of the 1st string right here. So if I take these two fingers out, you get like this little block with these two fingers that are on the same fret here, but they're on different strings. Make sure you don't allow them to slip like and both be on the same string. It's going to make the chord sound wrong. You can't ever have two fingers on the same string, at least not when you're playing any chords. Don't want to have that happening. So this is what the chord looks like. Again, 3rd fret of the 6th string, 2nd fret of the 5th string, 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and 3rd fret of the 1st string. And that's what that chord sounds like. So now that you know those two chords, try to get comfortable just switching within a reasonable amount of time between the D chord and the G chord. Now, one other trick that I want to show you is that sometimes you might not have the chords sound right. You might be wondering why. For example, you might play your D chord and it sounds, instead of like this, it might sound like this. So if you notice there, it didn't sound right, and some of the strings were actually muted, which means that some part of my hand is actually touching the string and not allowing the string to ring out properly. So you can kind of search for where the problem is in a chord by doing something called arpeggiating the chord. So that might sound like a big fancy word, but all it means is to take all of the notes in the chord and play them separately. So if I take all the notes in the D chord and play them separately, slowly, it sounds like this. And if there's a problem, you'll be able to hear exactly which string the problem is, and you can look to make sure that your fingers are properly positioned to play the chord and have it sound the way that you want it to. Also, the thing that's probably going to cause issues with having strings muted in your chords is that you're not playing enough with your fingertips. You might be letting your fingers go flat like this. So if you're having issues getting a chord to ring out, start by bringing your fingers more in the tips so that they're coming like straight down onto the strings like this. So if I flatten my fingers out, it's probably going to get muted. See, there you go. I flattened my fingers out more, and the high E string, the first string, was getting muted. So I gotta bring my fingers more on the tips, and now it sounds good. By the way, if you're learning something and having fun in this lesson, make sure you drop a like down below. I really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm to get this video out to more people. So thank you very much for that. All right, now you know how to play some notes, you know how to play some chords. Now the next thing you need to do is learn some strumming patterns. And when you take these chords and apply some strumming patterns to them, bam, you got some music and you're having fun jamming on the guitar. So let's get right into that. So almost all music is counted in groups of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And each of those groups of 4 beats is called a measure. Now, if we strum one strum exactly with each of those 4 beats, that is called quarter notes, and that's exactly what we're gonna do right now. So really quick, form your G chord from the last part of the video. Just play it really quick, make sure it sounds good. And now we're gonna take that G chord and strum all down strums. So you're gonna have to strum downward, and then you're gonna have to bring your hand back up without touching the strings, and then strum another down. So it's gonna look like this. I want you to count either out loud or in your head like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just get comfortable counting in your head and just keeping that beat steady of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to make sure you're keeping that beat steady too. Don't let this happen. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. No. Make sure it's steady just like you're saying it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's something called the metronome, which really helps you to have better rhythm. We're not really going to use that just for the sake of time. We're just going to learn how to count and play at the same time and just get that concept of keeping a beat together. But as you go on, you're going to want to use a metronome to make sure that you're getting everything really tight and rhythmically locked in when you're practicing. Now, the next thing that we're going to learn is something called eighth notes. So eighth notes are twice as fast as quarter notes. So the way that we count eighth notes is simple. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, we count it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So In between each of the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're placing an and. That's exactly in between those two numbers. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the way that we strum eighth notes on the guitar is by using down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So every time we have an and that pops up, we're going to strum that with an up strum. So remember before when we were strumming only downs, you still had to bring your hand up, but you had to make sure that your hand doesn't touch the strings, that your pick doesn't touch the strings and make any noise, just so you only hear those chord notes. Well, now, the way that you're going to think of it is that you're just letting the pick hit the strings on the way up instead. You don't really have to do too much different than when you're playing quarter notes. It's just that you're not lifting your hand away from the guitar, which is allowing the pick to hit the strings. So it's going to look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So get comfortable doing that, just strumming down, up, 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 down. So now that you've learned quarter notes and eighth notes, I want to show you a really cool strumming pattern that combines both of them. And this is really, really important to know, and you see it in a lot of different songs. So it goes like this. Down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. And the way that we count it in terms of like beats 1, 2, 3, 4 and it would sound like this. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you notice, we just have a quarter note on beat 1. We have 1 and then we go straight to 2. So 2 downs in a row. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and if you notice on beat 3 we actually don't play. You don't hear the guitar sound out, but you keep your hand moving. So in the same way that before when you were just playing all down strokes and you'd have to move your hand up without allowing it to touch the strings, sometimes you want to actually move your hand down without having it touch the strings. And the reason for this is that it allows us to keep our hand going in this nice little groove. Down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. If you notice, my hand is moving like this the entire time. So it's really, really way more fun to play like that, and it helps you have better rhythm if you can get used to this idea of keeping your hand moving and having control over pulling it away from the strings or allowing it to hit the strings whenever you want the guitar to sound out. So again, I'll show you that one more time really slowly. Pay really close attention because this is going to be tricky for you to get down at first. But if you're paying attention and go really slow, you'll be able to get it, I promise. Down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. All right, so you've done an incredible job. We've covered a ton of different stuff, and we have just a couple more things to go, and then you'll be all set to start playing tons of stuff on the guitar. So the next thing that we're going to learn is your first basic chord progression. So we're going to take the first two chords I already showed you, D and G, but we're going to add one more chord to it, and that's the A chord, which I haven't shown you yet, but I'll show you right now. This is the A chord. So the way that we play A chord, it can be a little bit tricky, but it's easy to remember and visualize. So actually, all of our fingers go on the 2nd fret, just on different strings. So you take your first finger and you put it on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So use the 4th string, and then we're on the 2nd fret. And then you take your 2nd finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So these are in separate strings. And then finally, we take our 3rd finger and put it on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And if you notice, all of our fingers, like I said, are smushed together like this. So there's no possible way for you to get them all like perfectly right next to the fret like I was talking about. So just do your best to get them all within this space here of the 2nd fret. And it's going to sound fine. And just make sure that you're getting up on your fingertips really well. And then make sure you strum only the 5th string downwards. Don't strum the 6th string. So it should look like this. So one thing I want you to try to do is take some strumming patterns and switch between these chords. So the first one you should do is quarter notes and play each chord for 4 beats and go really slow. So you should try and be able to do something like this after some practice. So a couple of things that are going to be challenging for you and how to fix them. So the most challenging thing is going to be switching the chords quickly enough to be able to stay in time with that beat to keep the 1, 2, 3, 4 going consistently. So one thing that you can do is, number one, like I said before, practice forming those chord shapes so that you have the chord shape down before your fingers are actually placed on the guitar. And the next thing that you should do is actually give yourself a little bit of time to switch by just strumming the open strings on your last strum. So for example, you could do something like this. On beat 4, I'm going to strum the open strings so I have some time to switch. It'll sound like this. Now, it doesn't sound super good like that when it's slow, but as you get faster and faster, actually a lot of guitarists continue doing that, and you really can't tell that there's that open string. It just sounds kind of natural as you go faster. And if you do it with rhythms like the strumming pattern that I showed you before, like this, so once you get comfortable playing quarter notes, then make sure that you move on to 8th notes and then eventually move on to that strumming pattern that I just showed you a bit slower. So here's what it would sound like if I strum 4 beats of 8th notes for each chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. And same thing there. You can strum the open strings on that last and, the and of 4. By the way, one extra thing is make sure that you're strumming nice and softly with a nice touch. Don't strum super hard. Don't do that. Learn how to control your volume on the guitar by playing nice and soft like I've been playing. That's a really, really excellent habit to start now. And then finally, the last strumming pattern we're going to add to that progression is that down, down, up, down, up strumming pattern. And again, we're just going to go through the pattern once and switch chords between every measure. So that's going to sound like this, real slow. Down, down, up, down, up, 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 down. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how to do your first improvising. So improvising is essentially when you make up different parts of the music that you're playing. And improvising could be playing a solo, full-blown solo. It could be improvising a melody. It could be improvising a chord progression. This is one of the most important skills that you could develop, especially if you want to be a really, really good guitar player and you want to be able to play in modern musical situations. You want to learn how to improvise well. So we can actually do some improvising just with these chords that you know already and some of the rhythms that we've learned. So what we're going to do is improvise specifically with rhythms. So really all we're going to do is just use quarter notes and eighth notes. And I want you to see if you can get comfortable now that you know a strumming pattern that combines quarter notes and eighth notes, and you know quarter notes themselves and eighth notes themselves, to see if you can actually improvise your own strumming pattern that uses the eighth notes in a different order. So for example, you could just start off like this. And for right now, we're just going to stick with one chord because we don't want to worry about switching chords at this very moment. We want to worry about the rhythm. So I'm going to show you how you should go about doing this. What we're going to do is start by just playing some quarter notes for 2 measures, and then I'm going to start adding in some eighth notes, some of those ands, the upbeats, and see what kind of different rhythms I can come up with. And again, just have a mindset of exploration and creativity and curiosity. Don't think of this as practice. Just think about this as I'm trying to see what different combinations I can come up with. Okay, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And 1, 2, 3 and 4. And 1, 2, 3 and 4. And 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 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 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And 1, 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So one thing that you should have noticed that I also did was sometimes I was playing all of the eighth notes, but I was accenting different ones. I was using the power of volume to make it sound a little bit more interesting. That could be also something you should start thinking about, because the higher level you get as a musician, you're gonna have more control over these different elements beyond just what chords and what rhythms you're playing. How are you playing them? What volume are you playing them with? Are you playing each note super short? Are you playing them long? So you're gonna notice different things like this as you go through this process of searching for how you can make something that sounds cool with these tools that you have now. All right, wow, that was a ton of stuff that you just learned in this whole entire video, so that should be enough to get you off the ground and started having fun playing the guitar, playing different chords, playing different strumming patterns, and ultimately playing music. I recommend that you just get as much time as you can with the guitar in your hands. Half of this beginning stage is just getting used to how it feels to play stuff. How does it feel to have the guitar in your hands, to be holding it properly, so on and so forth, and developing good technique that way, just getting used to it. Think of it as having fun, don't think of it as practice. Think of it as exploring and have a curious mindset when you approach it. Getting a little more advanced after this, you're gonna wanna at some point master the guitar fretboard, master the notes on the fretboard, because this whole thing can be really confusing. You know, it's just a bunch of strings and frets, and making sense of it all can be a really daunting task. But that's why I created the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course. So you should head on over to jamsville.com and pick up that course. It's gonna do you wonders, and you're gonna have total mastery and total command over your fretboard knowledge, and that's gonna serve you unbelievably well through your entire guitar journey. It really is an invaluable skill and just a great feeling to know that you have total confidence over the guitar fretboard. So go over to jamsville.com and pick up that course today. And until next time, listen, learn, and jam.